America's War on Wild Horses and Burros, hosted by Randal Massaro, with wildlife ecologist Craig C. Downer. Video by Tom Porter.
America is waging a cruel and vicious war on America's horses and burros. You ask why? The cattle industry wants them gone. The government wants them gone. The mining interests want them gone. And we're paying for it with our tax dollars. That's right, our tax dollars that's being spent from the Department of Interior to the Bureau of Land Management to round up our wild Mustangs and burros, to put them in holding facilities, and then they get sent off, they get bought up by kill buyers to send them to Canada and Mexico to be slaughtered. And the lie, the deception is they're saying the horses are overpopulating. They're not. Folks, the government wants to make you believe, the cattle industry, the mining interests want to make you believe that the horse is a nuisance animal. The horses are a nuisance to society, they're a nuisance to the ecosystem, when in reality, they're a keystone figure in the ecosystem.
Wild horses are magnificent free spirits of intelligence, power, grace, and beauty. Iconic symbols of freedom in the American West.
They're keystone species because they play a major role in the ecosystem, and they benefit many other species of plants and animals and decomposers, capable of self-stabilization in spite of the claims that they just totally overpopulate and destroy their habitat. That's not true. I do believe they have a wonderful place as natural gardeners in our beautiful world.
My tribe's based out of San Fernando, California. We, for thousands of years, have used the animals as teachers. The horse is just a natural fit. So I think most of us want to see those wild horses protected and preserved. I think most tribal people, we want to see the wild Mustangs and the wild horses as much as possible protected. Let them roam on the wildlands. That's our hope and dream. We have a bond with the wild Mustangs. When you look at horses within the tribal culture, they're a very respected animal.
Despite a 1971 federal law that protects wild horses and burros, the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, is rounding up most of the wild horses and burros. From political pressure from the heavily subsidized cattle and sheep livestock industry and mining interest.
My concern is that they're being excessively rounded up, that they're taking far too many and leaving far too few for such a vast area.
Horses are outnumbered by cattle and sheep at least 100 to 1. The simple fact is the horse is an asset to the ecosystem.
This is to be land devoted principally to their welfare and benefit, that is, of the wild, naturally living horse and burros. Not every other interest before them, namely public lands, ranchers, off-highway vehicle people, big mining corporation, big energy extraction corporation. No, it said their legal areas where they occurred on a year-round basis in 1971 is to be devoted principally to the welfare and benefit of the wild horses and the wild burros. Unfortunately, the traditional enemies that the law was designed to protect them against have taken over these programs. They have subverted the true purpose of the Wild Free-Roaming Horse and Burros Act, and we have to change that. People love to come out and observe them. These animals are beautiful, highly evolved creatures who have natural healing qualities, both for nature, the world of nature, and for people. And they can dig wells, just as wild horses can also, but the burros are particularly noted for that, and they create little desert oases.
They eat the grass that causes fuel for the fires. Why not use the horses? Have them along the hillsides, eat the grass that causes fuel for the fires. Why can't our government become smart? Why can't they become eco-friendly? The cattle industry, the sheep herders, all want these horses and burros gone because they graze the same land. Get rid of your competition, all the land is theirs. They're saying that the horses are overpopulating, the horses are getting sick and dying, there's not enough food and water for the horses. Then how come every time they do a roundup, they put the horses in the holding facilities and they replace the horses with cattle and sheep? The American Mustang and the Burro deserve to be here. Cattle interests want them gone because they compete for the rangeland, the grass, and that grass is what feeds the cattle. So they're in competition.
My name's Janet O'Connor. I own Sundance Ranch here in Redlands, California. I've owned the ranch probably about 41 years. We mainly do boarding, lessons, and training. Years ago, the monitors brought them over Ritchie Canyon, but they've had no management as far as herd management on any of them. They are breeding and reproducing and getting out of control as far as numbers in the herds go. Well, they need help because they're getting into populated areas, they're getting out on the roadways, causing accidents, they're getting killed themselves. There have been not a number of deaths, but a couple, 3 deaths in the past few years involving the burros. A couple of years ago, there was 7 burros hit by a train right down the road from me. All were killed. It's getting to the point where it's getting dangerous, especially in the evenings when they are going back and forth, moving. People speed the way the traffic is in the canyon. It's gotten so populated that they don't slow down, and they're getting hit left and right. There's pros and cons to this whole situation with the burros. They're good for fire prevention as far as them eating the hillsides, but they're also eating everything in sight. I haven't been able to keep my landscaping around my ranch. It's gotten to the point where everybody has to start fencing their property, which is even pushing them out into the public more and more. I captured probably 58 or 60 that were going back and forth on my road and crossing over San Tim every morning and every night. And it was just getting to the point where something had to be done. So those were captured and moved over to Donkeyland, the sanctuary in Ritchie Canyon. If something isn't done, the herds are going to grow, continue to grow and grow and grow, and there's not going to be enough to sustain them. We need to get a herd management program going and help these guys at least castrate some of the jacks where they're not reproducing and the herds are growing in numbers. I mean, as you can see, I have my own set of burros here. I'm not against them. It's something needs to be done.
If we can stop them from having babies and we can relocate many of the herd, then they can probably have enough forage to live in these particular hills. On one of the roads in the area, Santa Mateo Canyon Road, the burros cross the road mostly at nighttime, and it's a serious hazard for drivers because the road, they travel pretty fast, like 55 mile an hour. It's only a 2-lane road, but the drivers go pretty fast. The donkeys come out of the bushes to cross the road, and people can't see them until they're practically there. And there have been a few fatal accidents, fatal of course for the burros, but also for the drivers.
Wild burros and horses, equids, are deeply rooted in North America over millions of years, right here in the western United States. Burros and horses are restoring a vacant niche in our ecosystem. They are being unfairly blamed. There should be fencing and overpasses built to protect people and burros.
But it's not just the wild horses and burros. You look at the American wolf, the coyote, bears, prairie dogs. America's waging a cruel and vicious war on its wildlife, and we're paying for it.
America's secret war on wildlife. The Department of Agriculture, ironically called Wildlife Services, has a secret war against American wildlife, especially against predators. Targeting wildlife for elimination, mostly on public lands, is causing great ecological damage to biodiversity, such as wolves, mountain lions, bears, foxes, bobcats, as well as other animals, at the request of agricultural interests.
On America's dirty little secret, America's other war, America's war on wildlife. And it's all being done with your tax dollars. Why we need coyotes? They keep us from getting rabies, plague, typhus, fever, and the hantavirus. And yet we're wiping out wolves, we're wiping out coyotes. They eat the very rodents that kill us and get us sick. So on behalf of Tom Porter from the Animal Consciousness Show and Randal Massaro from Union Members for the Preservation of Wildlife International, I'm your host. Thank you for watching. One final thought. Are we going to be known as the generation that wiped out our wild horses and burros, our wildlife? I sure hope not. And that's where you come in. Thank you for joining us today.
You can go to my site at thewildhorseconspiracy.org.